Now, I'm very happy to welcome back one of the most renowned college football sports bettors that I know, in Mr. Brad Powers from bradpowersports.com. You can follow Brad on Twitter at Brad Powers7. Brad, how the heck you doing, my man? It is football season.
Yeah, man, it flies by. I don't know. And we've been doing this several years now. You had me on a couple times, and I mean, it really flies by. The years go by, but excited for another upcoming season. I had a good one last year. Hoping to be better even this year.
We always are, dude. And man, it's fun watching you, and this is kind of like the Brad Powers market, in my opinion. I know that you're too modest, but you set a lot of these markets by June, July, which is cool. But you know what's great about that is you know when things have been over adjusted too. The marketplace in general obviously hasn't hit a lot of these lines yet, but at the same time, some of the more bigger betters and sharper money has. But there's going to be some value and I think there's still some nuggets we can talk about. So I'm really excited about that. But man, you are right. And I consider like Indiana, Ohio, Midwest too. You know, it's you moved up there, man. Tell me a little bit about that, as I'm from the Midwest, as you know, a little Chicago, a little Wisconsin. How's life treating you back in Ohio?
Uh, yeah, I mean, a lot of people question the move. Why would you want to do that? I mean, obviously, I'm originally from Ohio. I spent my whole life couldn't wait to get out of the state, and here I am a decade later after living in Vegas. I'm back. It was a bunch of things. Parents are aging, need to be somewhat close to
Yeah.
them. I mean,
Yeah.
I can't, go every year, only seeing them a couple times a year. Need to be able to see them maybe, once or twice a month. With the things that they have and help them out when I can. So there was that. I wanted to get out of the city. I've been between Cleveland and Vegas. I've been living in the city for 16 years. So
Yeah.
I mean, I grew up on a farm. So I mean, I'm getting that age where I need simplicity. I chose this particular. I'm not even from. I don't know anybody where I moved to. I'm about an hour and 40 minutes from my parents. I've never been in this part of the state before, but I moved to this particular part because it's big on farming. It's big on fishing. I live right near a lake. It's a huge lake, the biggest besides Lake Erie, it's the biggest lake in Ohio. And they're also big on football. I mean, football drives the culture here. Sports drives the culture. It's
Right.
probably, I mean, not even my opinion, but the high schools around here are voted among the very best in the country as far as small town high school football. It's the best, the certain conference. So you add all
Cool.
that together. That's why I'm here.
Brad's going to be broadcasting from some high school football games, which is fun. I bet I look forward to you going there because I know you will, and you'll talk about the capacity. But what's so funny is that your Twitter followers are up to what 75, 76,000, and you like to compare that to the capacity of some of these stadiums. So what did you just fill up? Which stadium did you just fill up, and what stadiums are on deck?
Yeah, I'm up to 76. You know what? I'm in the hundreds as far as out of 136. I think I'm like in the 110s actually. The school that's coming up is near and dear to my heart. It's 77,000 with the new seating capacity the last couple of years is Notre Dame. So I'll be looking forward to that one here. Then I'll probably pass that sometime early in the football season. So
Oh
that's
yeah,
where that. I didn't mention why I moved here. I mean, I didn't even mention my career. I mean, obviously, sports betting is legal now in the state,
yeah.
so I couldn't move here before. Uh, and I'll also say this: I mean, the two when you look at overall handle, FanDuel and DraftKings could not, couldn't bet at those two spots in the state of Nevada. So, I mean, the two biggest sports books in the country couldn't bet in the state. Now I can bet at them.
I know. It's like, seriously, why is it like that? There's so many dumb rules, but then you have these politicians messing stuff up too in some states, and you just got to cross your fingers and hope that toxicity doesn't run into your state where they start charging people for bets, especially if you're like a high volume prop bet. It's absolutely ridiculous. Like, how come I can trade a stock and you don't charge me 50 cents for that, dude? It's like no difference. It's like you're predicting
I'm
something, right?
concerned about it, but we're not Illinois yet. I
Yeah,
mean, obviously, wouldn't have mind Florida or Texas, but their sports betting is basically non-existent
yeah.
there outside of Hard Rock in Florida. Tennessee doesn't have great sports betting laws, so that's why I'm here.
That's right. That's right. That's why you're there. And here in Arizona too, we have the same books, and it's a nice menu, and they come out pretty quick as well. It's good to use those books, and I'm actually glad one of our sponsors, Circa, is going to be. They're in other states now, and they're going to be keep moving. And big
I'm
fans
only
of
two
them.
hours from Kentucky too, so I'm 2 hours within 4 states, and I fully expect to be driving down to Kentucky many times this football season to bet at Circa. Love Circa.
Heck yeah, it's the best place around, and it's the only place I care about visiting. When I was younger, I went to the Strip. I would rather not even go there nowadays. If I go to Vegas, I'm my butt's stuck at the D or the Circa, and I'm totally cool with that, Brad. But hey, man, it is time to talk about some college football, and got to start with the rule changes. Sometimes there's significant, sometimes there's not. But what this year would be the most significant change for the upcoming 2025 season?
Well, obviously, a big topic the last few years has been, faking injuries, so to speak, for teams that are going tempo and they're struggling with it. And, you see the coaches go down, go down, go down, and the player all of a sudden, falls to the ground and you got to stop. Uh, that's going to stop this year because if the ball's already spotted, the trainers have to come onto the field. The team gets penalized a timeout. So I don't think that's going to cut into it dramatically. I mean, there's always going to be a gray area. I mean, when somebody's
Sure.
legitimately hurt, I mean, you're concerned with that. I think that's why they said that if the ball's spotted, I think if somebody's legitimately hurt, they're not spotting the ball. They're more
Yeah.
concerned about the injury. So I like that they put that in there. If there's no time, if the team doesn't have any timeouts left, it's a delay a game penalty. So I
Uh-huh.
like it. I'm for it. I thought it was the CS is the word chicken crap type of by a lot of teams. I know it's gonna. One team in particular used to do it a lot. That would be Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss. So I'll be anxious to see how it impacts them.
The transfer god, Lane Kiffin. You're right. It was disgusting to look at. It was just such an ugly spot on the game. And it's about time that they fix that. And but here's the thing. I mean, what if they spot the ball and the guy was injured? And the truth is maybe somebody's just going to drag him off the field. Oh, my knee's hanging off. Yeah, just drag him off out of bounds. No, we cannot lose this timeout. We'll just drag you out the field. I have no idea if something like that's going to come up, but man, I guess that's the other end of the spectrum, right?
Yeah, I mean, when there's a legit injury, I mean that's going to be in question. Where I mean, I don't know if you get a couple players that run onto the field. I mean, that's how you get off. Hey, it's not the training staff. Act like you're subbing some players and just sub them guys to carry the guy off the field quickly, and then you get and then that way you can not get a charge timeout. Obviously, this is going to impact. Where it's going to really impact it is late in games, late in halves,
Right.
particularly late in the second half. So I'm anxious to see how it impacts it because there are going to be some gray area, in my opinion.
What rule change or changes do you think need to happen still to improve on the game?
I'm not a fan of the new college football overtime, especially when you get to the third overtime and it's just a 2 point conversion extravaganza. I don't know. To me, it's not a great watch. I mean, Georgia Tech was exciting, but there was no need for that game to go to 8 overtimes.
No timeouts too after like the third, right? Or they
Yeah,
get one, yeah, something.
I like the NFL overtime rule, especially since they've changed it in the last
Yeah.
couple of years. I'm okay with that. I wish college football would adopt that. And I'm old. I remember growing up as a kid. I remember ties. I mean, college football sometimes is more interesting, in my opinion, if there's a couple ties out there every year.
Yeah.
If you play the extra 15 minutes and you're still tied, I mean that's what it is. It's a tie. So I wouldn't mind seeing a few of them each year.
60-1 on the ties, baby, right?
Yeah.
We used to get some odds like that. They still have them for like UFC and stuff. No, it's weird how college has the better pass interference rule and NFL now has the better overtime rules. It's like, come on, guys, figure this out. If there was more games like in hockey, you understand, going to a shootout after one overtime sudden death period. But man, I mean, with just 12 regular season games, 8 or 9 conference games, dude, it's like it's too important to have such a hodgepodge type of situation. So I agree with you on that. Fumbling the ball forward has always been the weirdest thing in my life. It's like a team fumbles forward, they miss the first down, but then they recover it 5 yards. even though it was accidental, it's like, why are you rewarding them for a bad play? And then on the opposite end of the spectrum, you fumble it out of the end zone, you completely lose the opportunity. I think fumbles should just be stopped. If you get it, just bring it to the point where it's fumbled. That's what I think. And now with replay, I think in those types of systems, it's a lot easier for the refs to see where that happened.
You mentioned a big one. I mean, fumbling out of the end zone when you're the offense, and not, that team the opponent getting the ball at the 20 is ridiculous. I mean, at the I'm with you. Wherever the point of the fumble was, they spot the ball there. But at the very least, I mean, the offense should still get the ball. Maybe it's at the 20 for the offense, but yeah, though doesn't happen a lot. But man, when they do, you talk about game changers. You know, 10-point, at minimum 7-point type of plays. Those are definitely it.
They certainly are, man. And it's just such a weird dynamic. I also would love a fast type of eye in the sky replay. I know I'm always hard on officiating, but it's just something that's like efficient, like these, maybe put a red light on and say, dude, we're gonna quick change it. And and I know the flow of the game is affected, but I mean, I would like just to see some more experiments with a better system. We'd probably have to start with the NFL, where the money is, and have that filter down. But we can pick apart pretty much any sports, and I do appreciate the fact that both the NFL and college football is putting systems into place, just like the timeout change and everything like that with the injury and in the stuff that you see right now. I think maybe in 5 or 10 years we'd be in a better place. But what might not be in a better place is how they're running these playoffs, man. Guaranteed spots now. It's like for the Big Ten and the SEC. I mean, as a Notre Dame fan, especially, what is your thoughts about that type of nepotism reward? What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, not a fan. I mean, put the best teams in. I don't care what conference. I don't care if the SEC has 8 teams one year. I mean, just I want the best teams in each and every year. I don't want some guarantee. But just to me, I don't like it. So if there's going to be a guarantee, and you're still going to play conference championship games, guarantee the 4 conference champs out of the Power 4 and the 1 G5. I'm okay with those 5 spots getting guaranteed. But then after that, I mean, you seed the best teams however they are, unlike last year. So I mean, I think that's the format moving forward. I'm not a fan of that. I mean, we're going to 16. I don't think 16 teams in the college football season deserve to play for the national championship, but that's where we're going. I do like one thing. I went to 2 of them last year, back-to-back nights. I love the home games in the first round of the college football playoffs. So much so that I wish there was multiple rounds with home games. So
Right.
I mean, college football is unique because of the stadium, the tradition and pageantry of home venues on college campuses. I'd like to see more of that.
And that's, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I'm scratching my head a little bit about, and I do like it, but are we rewarding it right? Because I agree, but here's the thing: you can't reward teams by wins and losses when one conference is very much higher. You have to have a power rating system. You have to have a much better system for that. So in order for that to be true, let's agree that you need to realize that Ole Miss might be better than somebody, right? Or whatever. But as far as home field, it is more. I almost feel, is that because of you're better, but you got your ass kicked and have 4 wins, but you got in the playoffs, you're going to get a home field? Or maybe you were ASU and you lost 1 game in the conference, and are you going to not get a home field because of it? So that's where I kind of scratch my head, Brad, and see, is there a better spot? Maybe the team that actually won the games might get more home field. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a big fan of the committee, just because, I mean, we don't know what they're using for the most part. I mean, there's to me, I thought, I mean, BCS was fine with me with the computers. Keep in mind, I think those computers are way better than what they were 20 years ago as far as coming up with a power rating. So I would like to bring that element back into the mix, and to see what we have, selecting these teams. As far as it's always like, obviously Ole Miss was a top 3, top 4 team last year. Would I put them 3 or 4 if we're doing a college football playoff? No. I mean, they lost 3 games they absolutely shouldn't have. I mean, at some point,
Yeah.
games have to matter. So I don't know. There's a fine line there. I mean, because I want to go off power ratings, but that's the Vegas inside of me to get the best teams.
Right.
I don't know if that works year in and year out because I mean, obviously, we would have 6, 7 SEC teams uh, in most playoffs if we just went up pure power ratings.
Yeah, pure power rings, and then you could still be wrong in a way if you completely thought the conference was better than it was.
Yeah, good point.
Because the sample size isn't that big. So maybe you do cap it and say there's no minimum, but there's a maximum. I don't know what to do there because there should be some sort of punishment for not winning games, important games within your conference. So yeah. It's tough, and you're right. There's a lot of fine lines, but I think we can both agree that the committee sucks. So either way, let's try to get around that. But how about the NIL and transfer portal? It's another gripe that I have. What's funny is I've always been that person that thought the players should get something because I just thought it was so weird for them to play for a school and being so important. And like even in college, I would see athletes just not have money for parties. It's just super weird. It was just weird to me. And maybe they weren't the high grade athletes, but it's just like, dude, you bust your butt for the store. The guy working at the ice cream shop's getting more money from the school than you are. So I was kind of like that, but I didn't know they do it like this with like just a shotgun approach and is completely make it a free for all. What type of changes need to be done there?
Oh, wow. Where do we begin? We can do a whole podcast on it. But I mean, I just think there needs to be more transparency with the NIL. I mean, there's still a lot of secrecy to say the least. There's still the old school $100 handshakes, so to speak, with these NIL deals. I think we've lost what it was supposed to be about. I mean, name, image, likeness. Where now it's just basically one year contracts. So I would like to. I'm all for the players getting paid, and I'm all for them getting paid a lot of money. But I just like to, see some transparency. The portal, I think, is worse than NIL right now. I don't think there should be unlimited transfer. I don't think it's setting a good precedent for young kids. Just, whenever things get tough, I'm out of here. I think you should be allowed to transfer at least once with no penalty. But when you got kids transferring every year, 3, 4, 5, 6 times, I'm not a big fan of that. So you should be allowed to do it, but not without penalty. That penalty being old school, sit out a year. If you want to transfer again, sit out if it's your second or third time transferring. So that's what I would change there.
100% agree with that, man. Absolutely. One freebie, you sit out a year no matter what the circumstance is. I totally agree with that. And I also think that NIL money has to be tied with postseason. It has to be tied with bowl games. It has to be tied with playoffs, because you're even going to get some kids sitting on the playoffs, which is going to really blow your mind after what
it's coming.
Yeah. Look what we saw Nico do. It's coming, and it's going to hit you with a ton of bricks, especially when there's 16 playoff teams and they're trying to hold the school accountable by the cojones, right? That's going to happen. And man, that's definitely something I need to see change there. I don't know how to completely fix NIL. Maybe the players need to unionize somehow. Maybe the collective bargaining. Maybe everybody should get something somehow. I think maybe you reward more if they go through the school and it goes to a fund. I just have a lot of ideas, but you're right. We can do a whole podcast on that, man. There's no reason to elaborate, but I just wanted to spitball a couple of my ideas out there as well. But let's get into some conferences, man. I love talking early college football, and it's not even early for guys like you that helps at the marketplace. But let's see if there's any value still for some of our listeners to check out and maybe to make a play themselves. We're going to do kind of like a buy low, sell high. And anything you want to talk about within these conferences, man, you can talk about anything really, but we're probably looking at the current season win totals or future numbers to win these conferences, or even if you want to say, yeah, I don't like their win total, but from an ATS perspective, let's start with the American Athletic Conference. And I'm going to do this by alphabetical order, but I'm glad to start here because I don't have to waste your time. I got nothing right here. I didn't do enough research yet, and I'm going to be honest. I'm not going to think of play until I do. What do you have currently in the American Athletic Conference for us?
Yeah, one that I bet and actually bet recently, as in yesterday. I'm selling Army. I'm going under 7.5 wins. You can get it plus money. Still, I try to do it as quietly as possible. So if you're watching, I would do that sooner.
Look at that.
Get on it. So What do I see with that? I don't normally like fading the service academies just because, I mean, you know what you're getting from them as far as the consistency aspect. But obviously, Army's coming off a historical season. They won the conference in their first year of the conference, but they lose their all everything. I mean, literally, they called him, Captain America for a reason. Bryson Daly, their quarterback, I mean, set the record for rushing touchdowns in a season for a quarterback. Lose him. They'll still be productive a little bit there, but transfer portal's hitting everybody, especially these G5 schools. They lost 3 defensive starters post spring, including one kid that went to Georgia. So there's a lot of talent missing. They lost a bunch of their key players on the offensive line. They lost their offensive line coach, who's going to be the head coach at Central Michigan. That was an offensive line that won the Joe Moore Award last year. So
Okay.
I had Army at a historical high. They lost some historical players. I think it's back to reality. What they did, it is a tougher conference, and there's a bunch of games where they could be swing games now, and I'm not seeing it this year. So under 7.5 for me. Buy team, I haven't fully
Plus
attacked
money.
this yet.
Hold on, plus money
Oh,
right now for
yeah,
Army.
plus money.
114 on FanDuel and 110 plus 110 on DraftKings. So, yep, good call. We'll watch that real quick and see if that changes much. But go ahead with what you're saying.
Yeah. At this point, I mean, I'm not why a lot of these are, you got to lay heavy juice, and I'm not big at this point. I mean, there'll be some other opportunities. I'm not big into laying the minus 180s, minus 190s to minus 200. So that's a rare one where you get some plus money. North Texas, I haven't fully grasp how I'm going to attack this because it's kind of a high variance, but I'm buying North Texas. I like their transfer quarterback. They lost Chandler Morris, who I wasn't a big fan of. But more importantly, this is a team and a program that struggled defensively. They take the Sam Houston defensive coordinator, Skylar Cassidy. And basically took the Sam Houston State defense with them, like 6 starters from a really good defense. So I think they're a sneaky team in a conference where I don't see one particular school. I mean, Tulane, Navy, Memphis are at the top, but North Texas could be a high variance team. If those defensive starters click right away and they got that high powered offense, this is a long shot that I think is worth a look here. North Texas to win the conference. Are you muted?
Yes, my kids just got home in the background. North Texas, they're way down there, 18-1 right now. So I find that really interesting. Thanks for reminding me about the mute. So I mean, 18-1's not bad. I mean, they're down there, but it's not like to the point where it's like you think massive long shot. It sounds like there might be like some other thoughts on that as well. So long shot North Texas for some, maybe you can do pizza money if you want, but
Yep.
no, I like it. And Connor Hibbett said UTSA to win the AAC. Tulane loses a lot as well, and the Roadrunners avoid Navy and Memphis in addition to hosting Army and Tulane. So that's interesting because
I like that one too.
I wasn't sure about their defense, and I know that Josh Nunn came on about a week or two ago and said that as well. But they're sitting there at 5-1, and they were 8-1 last week when we talked about it. So man, I love it when people do things by schedule because that's how we did Indiana making the playoffs last year by schedule. And if that's the case, you might be really on to something. You can literally bet both of those and hedge out of it once they play a Memphis or somebody in the championship game. So great call, Connor, and great stuff, Brad, on Army under and a long shot on North Texas. Let's move on to the American or the ACC, I should say. The ACC is next. And real quick before we get into it, why does everyone hate Cal so much, man? And I might have been listening to you, but I listen to a lot of college football shows as much as I can. What's wrong with Cal this year?
A lot of things. I mean, when you're looking for value, I mean, you're looking for fundamental changes. They had one post spring, 22 players hit the portal. Last I count, post spring, several starters, including, I would argue, their 2 best players on offense at the running back, who went to Oklahoma. Jack Endries, the tight end, went to Texas. I mean, that's 2 very key cogs you lose post spring that you didn't really anticipate losing. There's a lot of dysfunction with the hierarchy with them. Ron Rivera is their new GM. It's a lot of schools. The GM answers to the head coach. in this instance, I think the GM, Ron Rivera, has more power than the head coach. So there's just a lot of dysfunction. The boosters, for some reason, like Rivera over Wilcox. I think Wilcox is a really good coach. Just that's what they're seeing, dysfunction. And also, I mean, Cal has no business being in the ACC. So a lot of cross country travel. That didn't bode well. You know, it was hit or miss in the ACC last year because obviously SMU had some travel and they went to the championship game. But it wasn't great for a lot of the at USC, UCLA, Washington, and the Big Ten. Their cross country travel didn't do well there. So there's also that.
A lot of travel, a lot of portal, and Justin Wilcox might enter the hot seat if that's the case. GM Ron Rivera, he's like GMs come in and they like to make changes, and you wonder who's got the more power. I would assume Ron Rivera. It's the way the schools are supposed to be run. Now, maybe in the Belichick situation, we'll get to that in a minute. Maybe it's more him than Mike. I don't know, but it's an interesting dynamic to watch. It's like who's really in charge here. And I love Justin Wilcox too. He was our fantastic D coordinator in the Badgers during I think the TJ Watt days. So I've always been a fan of his. And if Fickle doesn't we'll get to the Big Ten. Buy low, sell high then in the ACC. It sounds like there's a popular team that you're liking.
Yeah, I'm gonna be, Mr. Joe Q Public here, but I got a ton of tickets on Clemson. I'm buying them. I think they're head and shoulders the best team in the conference by like a touchdown, more than Miami. I'm buying this is a program that's obviously taken a step down the last 3-4 years since the Trevor Lawrence days, but they're right back to being, in my opinion, a national title contender. Bet them to win the conference. Bet them over 9.5 wins, even at heavy juice. I still think that's a worthy bet. They're going to be favored in all 12 games. Bet them over their conference win total. So bet Cade Klubnik to win the Heisman. I love what they have at wide receiver. I loved what I saw that down the stretch from Cade. His throwing ability. The defensive line is one of the best in the country, and they get some of their key games at home. So I love Clemson a ton. I'm buying them.
And Connor Hibbert's flexing as well and is over 9.5 plus 130. You remember what I texted you a couple months ago? The team that I was looking at?
I don't. Was it Clemson?
Georgia Tech.
Georgia Tech.
Sorry, man. I like their chances. Did you see that schedule? I mean, and I'm sticking with it. And I think that the lines have moved a little bit in my favor. But man, I know they had to go to Colorado. I mean, I hope they can win that game.
I bet them in that game. I love them in that game.
Yeah, they were sitting at 1.5. I hesitated, and then 3.5 happened, and then Brad Powers happened. Should have texted me before you did that. But Gardner Webb, Clemson at home. Okay, maybe I'm just gonna say maybe. But after that, versus Temple at Wake Forest, versus Virginia Tech at Duke, versus Syracuse at home, at NC State, at Boston College, versus Pitt. And then you have Georgia at the end. But remember last year against Georgia, they gave them a run for the money a little bit, and Beck was playing, and I'm telling you, they look good. And Haynes King looked really good to me too. But this schedule is fantastic with the amount of teams that they're avoiding. And I'm guessing, maybe avoiding Florida State isn't all that great this year, but avoiding SMU, avoiding Louisville, avoiding some of those big teams. We'll see about North Carolina, and you might have something to say about North Carolina, but I like Georgia Tech a lot to possibly win the ACC. And you're getting, at least when I bet it, and I have to check where it's at, I got 14-1 because of this gross schedule, because you can hedge out of that, I'm sure, even if they play at Clemson in the championship game. And I flew over 7.5 wins, which is now getting a little bit more juice.
Yeah, they're going to probably be favored in at least 9 of those 12 games. I like the continuity, head coach, quarterback, running back. I like their coordinator. They got a new one on defense, but he's a rising star from Gideon's his name, from Texas. I love Buster Faulkner, their OC. I think we'll be getting a bigger job soon. But Brent Key always pulls off an upset or two in the big games. So, watch out Clemson early. Watch out Georgia at the end. Yeah, I'm not going to argue with you. I'm be a big Georgia Tech fan on that opening Friday night. So no disagreement here.
All right, well, sell high Miami for me, man. I didn't bet it yet, and I'm just going to kind of see where it goes. But I'm not a Beck fan, really. man. It feels like he's just a little too flashy for me. And when you match that with Cristobal, that coach over at Miami, I don't know how I'm going to fade Miami, if it's just going to be a season win total or if it's going to be maybe just a little ATS towards the beginning of the year. But Miami's kind of my sell team, mainly for the coaching region. And I'm sure they have a lot of studs coming in like they did last year. But a lot of those games you won with Ward were just like fluky. It's like they should have lost to Cal. I forgot that other one that was just a crazy call in that they should have lost
Virginia
to.
Tech.
Virginia Tech and Louisville was outplaying them. Dude, I'm not high on them. So that's where I'm at, man.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you're selling Mario Cristobal, you're not going to get disagreement from me. Also, we got to keep an eye on Carson Beck. Serious injury that he suffered at the end of last year. Didn't really participate in spring.
Sure.
They're saying all the right things, but they're always going to say that. They're not going to come out and say, "Oh no, he doesn't look good." So we got to keep an eye on that in fall camp. Man, that's a big time week 1 game against Notre Dame. I like. We're starting to get to that point. We're getting a little more liquidity in the market. A lot of books have week 1 lines up now across the board. I found it peculiar over the weekend. A couple of the books that are maybe willing to take a little bit bigger bet went from Notre Dame 2.5 to Notre Dame 3 minus 115. So somebody out there secretly took a position on Notre Dame over the weekend.
Very secretly. Well, unfortunately, I missed that, but that's interesting. Betting Notre Dame is something that Brad Powers doesn't like to do. So maybe it was somebody else.
With me, yeah, but I wouldn't put it past me to bet him. I like what I'm hearing about Notre Dame. Miami, I don't know.
All right, Miami. It's a sell high for me, and I think you had another sell high as well. Josh chiming in. Thanks for the nice talk about us having a great discussion. Thanks again, Josh. And what's your sell high team, Brad, for the ACC?
Another high profile as far as offseason news, it's Belichick in North Carolina. I'm just not buying it. I'll start with I'm not buying Belichick as a coach, period. We've seen now enough sample size with him without Tom Brady, and he's a losing coach. I'm not saying he's not a great defensive mind, but he is. But he's also over 70. He's never coached at the college level, or at least in the last 40 years. I'm not a big fan of the staff he put together. The roster to me isn't, not exciting. I don't like the fact that you're going out and getting your starting quarterback post spring. Gio Lopez is a fine quarterback, but again, if he's your guy that's going to lead you to the promised land, when you're expecting 8-9 wins, I don't see it. So I also don't see it in week 1. I bet TCU to beat them. And now TCU all of a sudden has flipped from like a 3-point underdog to a 3-point favorite. I'm part of that team. Under 7.5 wins. I think you can still get a decent number on that still, because there's some people that are buying the Belichick move. I'm not. Yeah, the only hang up is the schedule is pretty manageable outside of the game against Clemson, but I think they can lose to TCU. I think they can lose to UCF. I think Clemson can get after them, and if it starts slow, you got a 70-year-old coach that, his whole mantra, his whole life coaching career, no days off, and I see him at the beach. I see him doing 60 minutes, hot shot 24-year-old girlfriend. I don't like it. He doesn't seem buttoned up to me when he really is. So fade North Carolina.
Your Twitter keeps growing. You keep talking like that, you might hear from his girlfriend, my man. It's weird. And I just saw a picture with like her dad and him and Belichick, and I was just like, cringe worthy, man.
Weird,
Cringe,
man.
bro. How do you put that? I don't know how to think of that. I do have 2 daughters. I'm like, gosh, I hope that doesn't turn out yet. Also, if they really love each other, that they'd be set for life. It's I don't even know why I want to think about that dynamic, man. But it is very distracting. And I agree with you, man. There's nothing in North Carolina that tells me that they're going to be a decent ACC team. I think they're a fade team too. Miami, North Carolina, throw them in the garbage. Definitely wouldn't take the over on them. And if you want to take an under, I'm wondering if you wait it out too, especially on both of these teams, man. Maybe somehow the public can drive this up by September 1st, or whatever it is. They're August 30th, right? So maybe think about that as well. But let's move on to the next conference. And I think I had written down the Big Ten. So I'll start. I'm selling high on Oregon, and I'm doing it from the perspective of I feel I don't know. It's hard to say overachieved because the team's been awesome, but I'm not buying Dante Moore. I'm not. He didn't have a good freshman year at UCLA, in my opinion, and maybe that's because the team sucked, and that's very possible. but they just have so much turnover the last few years. It feels like a different team. And I just feel like they just should have lost more games last year against Wisconsin. They should have lost. There's a couple spots that just showed a putrid run defense, man. It's like you guys got by just based on skill and some great play calling too. Don't get me wrong, but man, just to keep that going seems a little bit impossible to me in a Big Ten that you're still traveling a lot. It's still kind of a new atmosphere, a new environment for you. You're going to go to Penn State. It's a revenge game for them. You're going to lose to Penn State. There's got to be a hiccup somewhere on this schedule. There's got to be another one. It could be Iowa. It could be Rutgers, even in my opinion. I think I'm secretly somewhat high on Rutgers. It could be against Washington, who I really like Jed Fish. I think there's another hiccup or two in this schedule, so I'm selling high on Oregon.
Don't disagree. Haven't gotten to the window yet, but do anticipate getting to the window. I agree with not a huge fan of Dante Moore. He really didn't wow me in the spring game. That was one of the few spring games I was able to watch. Only an underdog in one game, but you're right. There could be a hiccup somewhere. At Iowa would be probably the game for me. Very unique trip to Kinnick.
Absolutely. Who are you selling high on in the Big Ten?
Maryland. I don't think they'll be favored in any of the Big Ten games. Just yesterday, at DraftKings, I bet under their conference win total under 2.5 wins.
Wow.
Loved it. It was one of my favorite ones that I bet. Again, I think they'll be a clear underdog in most of their Big Ten games. I thought obviously they tanked a little bit last year. The new coordinators and just a lot of instability with that. Not a big fan of the coach. He's done a decent job, but I just think as a program they're trending down, and they're a type of program that when you're playing the new Big Ten and you're adding schools like USC and Oregon, it's a zero-sum game. Yeah, I mean, somebody's going to take the hit there, and it's programs like Maryland, in my opinion, that are going to take the hit. So I'm selling Maryland. Win total, I'd still bet under 4.5 too, even though that's moved a full win.
Okay, that moved around 5.5, 4.5, and to under 2.5 conference wins looks good. And this is the time to look at conference wins because they haven't been beat up as much and they're kind of somewhat newer in the market.
Yeah, relatively emerging market.
Yep. So check those out. And yeah, Connor is saying over 7.5 Washington is plus money everywhere it is. And I was staring at it yesterday, my man, because I like Jed Fish a lot as a coach. I remember what he did at Arizona. I like his offense, and I like their quarterback some. I like Desmond Williams. I even looked at his Heisman odds. Did I bet it? No. Do I want to do a small bet? If I do, maybe. Or do I make it like a quarter unit or half unit bet? I don't know. But it's 101. It's probably like 201 in some. It's like if they have a great year, you could be looking at this kid who was throwing like 80% completions in a small sample size that he played. But you pair these two together. You remember what he did with Fafita, and obviously T-Mac was there over in Arizona. Connor, I'm talking, man. Maybe this moves away from us at 7.5. But I will say there is 3 tougher games that they do have to play, and I think it's I'll pull up my Big Ten stuff. I think it's against Ohio State, Oregon. Well, so Ohio State and Oregon are at home. Get one of them somehow. Probably against Oregon. At Michigan, is it that rough? I'm not a sure on more guy. I don't know if Michigan's going to be great. I know that their defense stepped up the last year, but dude, that's the heart of it. And the rest of the schedule is very manageable. There's not like I think a bunch of Iowas or like, that kind of trickery to it. So, man, I'm looking at it. I didn't bet it yet, but that would be my buy low.
I'm staying on the West Coast, buying SC.
Okay.
Call me square.
Lincoln.
I know there's still some doubts on Lincoln Riley. I like the second year of D'Anton Lynn at defensive coordinator. They brought in a couple of kids from the SEC, a couple of 330-plus pounders at defensive tackle that should help them up the middle. This was a team that led their 12 regular season games, led in the fourth quarter of 11 of the 12, but still found a way to go 6-6. I think they'll have a little bit better close game luck this year. I don't see a lot of surefire. I mean, Notre Dame on the road will be tough. Oregon will be tough, but I don't expect for them to go under 7.5 wins. They're going to have to lose these toss-ups against Illinois, against Michigan, against Nebraska. I don't see them losing all 3 of those games. So I bet over 7.5 wins on SC. Still holding value.
Very fair. And you have such an offensive mind like Lincoln Riley. I wrote down on my preview, easy schedule, getting Michigan at home, and easy non-com minus the Notre Dame. So it looks like I kind of agree with you. Do I think they can win the Big Ten? Probably not. But yeah, I mean, they were ATS last year. They were cash and tickets, 8-5 ATS. So funny enough,
If you told people that, they would be like, "Huh, what?" Because they had such a disappointing year. But could have beaten Penn State close at the end against a lot of games. They just, I think people think about the Minnesota game, the Maryland game, the Washington game, but I mean, change one play in all three of them, and those are wins. And now, what are you thinking about SC?
Right, right. And Connor wants to know what you think about Illinois. I almost think if it looks too good,
Yeah.
what's wrong with it?
So I bet over, but that was, anticipating market move. I mean, it's just because a team that won 10 games last year, you look at the schedule, you look at what they got returning production. I mean, it's just a classic team that is going to get bet in the market all summer. I anticipate I will have anti-Illinois positions by the end of the summer because they'll get too pricey.
I know. Bielema has matured a lot. I've met him before. I
at
have
a
another.
table in Vegas.
No, I wasn't like his wife, but I did meet him at a bar when I was on a date that night, and things got a little weird. That's all I'm going to say. But he was, kind of one from that party guy to kind of being serious. I mean, I had no respect for him when he was at Wisconsin or at Arkansas, but he's gained some respect from me. And I think that everything just looks so dang good. It is going to be bet. And so that's why you went against, you went obviously for the over because you're going to have options soon. You might even get like a middle at plus money, when this keeps moving here. Their returning production second to none. I mean, fourth, they ranked 78% of their offense, 72% of their defense. Their transfer portal wasn't bad. Net ratings on 3 was 30. They had a positive net yards per play, but I thought, they also did get blown out at Oregon. So you wonder what was fact and what was fiction here. But he's had great defenses there, and this schedule says that if the big teams beat themselves up, they could sneak in, because their hardest game is Ohio State at home. And that's it. They're missing the other ones, but it just looks too good to bet, man.
Yeah.
Something wrong with it, right? And the biggest fade is probably the Wisconsin Badgers. I don't disagree with it, but it's such a hard fade because of their schedule. Playing Alabama and all the big, October is completely brutal. Playing all the biggest teams in the Big Ten, but it's one of those. It's like everybody's fading Wisconsin, and don't think those kids aren't hearing it. Fickle's on the hot seat. I'd still bet under 10 at 5.5 if I had to, but I'm not. I didn't bet it. Is that one that you got on?
I bet Wisconsin yesterday conference wins. I bet over 2.5 at DraftKings.
Ooh.
And he goes 2-7. He's going to get fired because Alabama's a loss. That'd be 4-8. So I didn't think the math added up there. I haven't touched the 5.5. I would actually lean under like you, but that one at 2.5 conference wins is saying, when the win total is 5.5 and the conference win total is 2.5, and they're playing on the road against Alabama, something's not adding up.
Something's not adding up.
We're getting a free game, which is worth 100 plus cents. So I bet over. I love that bet. Over 2.5 conference wins.
And it might come down to at Minnesota for the Axe, and it's a revenge spot because they lost at home. These teams like to trade. Like, for some reason, one team loses at the Axe at home. It's been like this over the past 2 or 3 years.
And I hated that game from them, though, last year. When bowl eligibility's on the line, they got beat at home like that. That was terrible.
Dude, I did too. But
that was one of the worst Wisconsin losses in recent memory, was it not? To show up and not even have any fight on your home field? Pathetic.
Well, they have a new offensive coordinator now. Longo's gone, and they're going to try to get back to the run and open up some holes. We'll see what happens. Edwards, we'll see what kind of quarterback he is. I actually kind of liked him at Maryland a little bit. I thought he did some good things, and he didn't have a team around him really. But yeah, I mean, that's interesting. And Penn State -4.5 versus Oregon's the whiteout, according to Connor. So yeah, I agree with that line move too. Let's move to the Big 12. So I'll let you start in the Big 12. Buy low or sell high?
Let's start with some flair. I'm selling Colorado. Big shocker there. Brad Powers in the offseason selling Colorado. you lose two, very talented, players, two all-time talents. Shador, super productive the last couple of years to say the least. I like Shador as a college quarterback. Man, I don't know how much it's going to translate to the NFL, but obviously then you lose a Heisman Trophy winner in Travis Hunter. I also don't, obviously it's the heavy transfer portal yet again. I don't see any buildup through the high school ranks for them. And I don't think you go, every year portal and expecting to hit a home run every year. I don't know how much Coach Prime's locked in this year. I mean, he's having some, word is some health problems. He's been away from the team. I thought they got it fortunate with last year's schedule. They played Utah, Oklahoma State. Okay, those are preseason to the top teams. They ended up being two of the most disappointing teams in the country. And they don't play Arizona State. They don't play Iowa State. They don't play BYU in the regular season. The three top teams in the Big 12. They won on a Hail Mary. And then obviously you got two of the top 10, talents in college football, arguably. So don't have that. Add it all up, under 6.5 wins. Would even play under 6. I think it could be a dumpster fire situation. And again, I already said I bet Georgia Tech. I think that'll be the start of it.
You think about the distractions with all that, but also think about now he's got to help his kid make an NFL team, going from a first-round pick to now having to help him. Like, he's probably going to do some lobbying and do something, man. I mean, that's just another distraction is all I'm saying, is that whole chance of him getting cut now or being put on the practice squad, which it looks more probable than not. He's just going to be a practice squad guy for the first year. That's humbling. And the prime times are not used to being humbled. So that is a really interesting distraction there. I don't think I sold one high on this, but I took Baylor to win the Big 12 at plus 800. And I like Sawyer Robertson. And even though I was on ASU to win the Big 12 last year, I thought Baylor was just the better team that was unlucky. The whole Hail Mary against Colorado messed them up. Yep. Sawyer Robertson was 5th in QBR on ESPN's QBR last year. It's a pretty good quarterback stat, in my opinion. I think one of the things they do a good job in is their QBR stuff. Best team in the Big 12, in my opinion. Like I said, their returning production's 9th in the nation. They get Utah and Kansas State both at home. So I love that. I think Baylor's the team that could be in the championship game and take it for the Big 12.
I bet over the win total. Number not available anymore, but I'm a Baylor, more pro Baylor. Big 12 is high variance. So I like you going a little bit. Texas Tech's getting a lot of love. Utah's getting a lot of love.
Too much love.
Arizona State, Kansas State. Baylor's that team sneaking around a little bit. Although I think I think my former boss didn't he pick Baylor? Phil Steele picked Baylor to win it.
I think he did too. And I did get over 7.5 at plus 110. I think it's a little juiced right now, but it's still there on some. In Colorado. I mean, if you're worried about. If you want over 7.5, bet it right now because they should beat Colorado, right? It's nothing you want to wait on. I mean, if you want to fade the team, you wait, right? So I think Baylor's a great play. But I'm glad you mentioned Texas Tech because I'm not high on Texas Tech just because they're really high in the transfer portal ratings. It wasn't enough for me there, man. I think
the most important position, quarterback. They got the $30 million roster, but they didn't figure out quarterback as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I agree. Are you selling high? Or are you buying low? Besides anybody like you mentioned with Baylor?
Yeah, I know we'll be running up against time soon, so I'll just keep it simple. Buy TCU, just a numbers play for me. I like the quarterback coming back. I bet over 6.5 wins, still holding some value.
Good stuff. Conference USA, Liberty. Just like the commercial, I took. Took over 8.5 and minus 130. It's at minus 160. I still like over 8.5. Yeah, I love their coach there and Jamie Chadwell. A lot of money at that school. Transfer Ethan Vasco from Coastal Carolina. I like him too. Liberty, man. I think they're just better than everyone there.
Don't disagree. Good number that you bet. I think that once again, 3rd year in a row, they play arguably the easiest schedule in the country, probably favored in all 12 games. So after a disappointing season last year, they're probably a little bit more locked in. I'm buying the second best team. I think could be sneaky in that conference. Could be La Tech. A lot of close game losses the last 3 years. Record they've been a little bit better than the record indicated. They got beat up by Army. Remember the season's supposed to be over, and then they're replacing for Marshall. I liked what I saw from that roster, fighting, clawing, and scratching in that game. That's something for me that's big. But some stability there as far as quarterback back. So I bought some Louisiana Tech over. If you can find 5.5, that's a real good bet.
Can't remember the last time I bet LA Tech over anything in my life, man.
Yeah.
That's a great. Wow, that's a interesting. And you're selling a newcomer to FCS, aren't you?
Yeah, they have the,
Yeah.
maybe even the toughest schedule in Conference USA. I like what they have, Delaware. They're one of the better FCS teams, but I just think, an upgrade in schedule difficulty. And then you look at it, you're like, oof, they're only going to be favored probably in 3-4 games. So I bet under on Delaware.
All right, under on Delaware, so that makes sense coming in. The Blue Hens, man, interesting. Just building and building the FBS number to 136 teams right now. Turn of the Mac, my friend. Return of the Mac, and we are on the same team because I heard you in many shows before. So why don't you tell us who you're buying in the Mac?
Buffalo, a big Buffalo buyer. Win total over. Bet them to win the MAC. I don't think they're the best team in the MAC, but that's Toledo. But it's always Toledo, and how many times do they win it? With Jason Candle losing 15 games outright as a favorite the last 4 years. So I'm betting on Pete Lembo, who I love as a head coach. Did a great job at Buffalo last year. You look at the returning production; they have in my opinion, the best defense in the MAC. I think they'll figure out quarterback. I like Buffalo. I still like them. And look, the win totals moved to win, and I still would bet over 7.5. So that's how much I like them.
Lamborghini Mercy. Yeah, I'm on them, man. They over 7.5 is what I took. I like the new quarterback, Taquan Robertson. I think he's a good fit, and he just didn't have his chances at Kansas State. When he was at UConn, he was decent on a bad team, in my opinion. I agree. I'm all over Buffalo. Their defense was fantastic, and they just kept kind of getting better and better, and they just returned a ton of defense. And I think that's what you need in the MAC. Everyone's got offenses at time to time, and it's just a situation where I think Buffalo and that great coach there is going to turn the page here. I didn't fade anyone in the MAC. I know you, Bowling Green guy like yourself, loves to talk about Jason Candle, but any fades for you in the MAC?
It is Bowling Green. I love Eddie George. Love the hire that they were able to pull off, but obviously the timing wasn't ideal. It was late February when you had to make a coaching change. I wasn't going to love BG even when Scott Loeffler stayed there. I thought the win total came way too high at 6.5. Even if it moves a win or a half win, under for me. And a lot of it's schedule. Look at that schedule. I mean, after the first game against Lafayette, they'll be an underdog in their next 5 games, and I don't see a win in those next 5 games. So 1-5. Depth shy team. I don't like Drew Pine at quarterback. I'm not buying BG in year 1 under Eddie George. Long term, I'm buying it. Short term, selling.
Neil Bardison says, I can see Buffalo tripping up the Gophers for the first game. And that is a great segue to my beer bet here. 100-1 to make the playoffs. Look, it's probably Boise, and I bet Boise. I'll get to that. But dude, that is if they trip up the Gophers, Neil, maybe that they are that team that goes undefeated, and like college football conference says, well, sorry, Boise, you lost to Notre Dame. Sorry, Liberty. I don't know. 100-1. There's a couple out there that I like here, like for small bets that could surprise some people, man. So Neil, I know what you're talking about, man. I'm hoping they trip up those stinking Gophers and make a big stand, because that's just gonna be fun, and I'm all over it as well. So, man, Buffalo, I'm on, and I have 100% agreement. How about the Mountain West, Brad? And I just said it. I took Boise 2-1 to win. I have minus 125 to win the conference, and I took them 2-1 to make the playoffs. Dude, they're favored by like multiple points every game, and it's just, I know you like another team. But maybe you still would pick Boise to make the playoffs. It's just my whole Ashton Genty thing. I thought he was a great player, but I thought that it was just a great player in a terrible conference and terrible defenses. And you still have their top guys returning really for Boise State. And they're the kind of team that does get good recruiting way out there on the West Coast. And man, Maddox Madison was fine last year, man. Good receivers there. Chris Marshall, Austin Bolt, Latrell Caples. I think that it's their conference.
Don't disagree. Bet them to win the conference. Bet them to make the playoffs. So I've made those 2 bets. I think they're more than a touchdown better than everybody else in that conference, maybe even double digits better. So kudos for that one. I am a buyer of Boise State. Only underdog will be at Notre Dame. They could lose that one, go 11-1. And when you're betting, I've said this on another show, when it comes to the committee, Boise State's a proven commodity. They're not going to get you embarrassed on the national stage, more likely than not. Unlike a Liberty from a couple years ago. So I think the committee will be forgiving if they lose that losses against Notre Dame. So I'm with you there. Buying Air Force, liked what I saw. Didn't like what I saw at the start of last season. Liked how they finished the season with 4 straight wins. I think that's more the team we see this year than the start. And I know what I'm getting with Service Academies for the most part. They're going to be a better team this year.
And it's exactly how it's been, man. And we've been doing this for years. It's like the year they're bad, you get on next year, and the year they're good, they sell everybody, and then you fade them, right? That's just the way military academies, service academies are. And it's a great find there, and I think they're going to be a good ATS team, and they're going to slow some teams down like they always do. So that's probably your second team, I would assume, in the Mountain West, like Connor's asking, Brad.
What
What
still
about?
might be UNLV, but I mean, there's so much roster turnover.
Yeah.
I don't have a high confidence level in that power rating.
I don't either. And Mountain West, you're selling a team, another team out of Colorado, aren't you?
Yeah, it's selling Colorado State. Just a numbers play for me. But I'm not a big fan of the coach. Not a big fan of the quarterback. Fowler, even though they're both back, there's continuity there. I think I'm anti that continuity. I don't like Fowler Nicolosi. He's a turnover machine. So that was another team that I don't. I don't say they're gradually getting, I guess, better. But are they really? I mean, Miami kicked the crap out of them in a bowl game. I just don't see it.
All right, the SEC, where losing means more. So I know people know I'm a Big Ten guy. I just like ripping on them a little bit. In my opinion, if you added up all the power ratings, they're still up there, the top one. But I will say that I can make an argument for 8 teams. I can make an argument even kind of for Florida a little bit, with Lagway there. I did my SEC stuff. I did some research, and I mean, don't get me wrong. I still have Alabama, Georgia, and Texas above everyone. I do, but I still can make an argument. It's like they're priced high. So I don't have a lot of buy low. I guess I took Vandy's over 5.5 again, just because I crushed on it last year, and Pavia's a stud and likes to fight with people, and and they have the schedule to do it, man. Vandy's got a schedule to get to 6. So I did Vandy. But I'm selling Arkansas under 5.5 because Pittman's toast and the team's not recruiting well enough. Their schedule is brutal, facing Notre Dame and at Memphis. So I just gave you quickly my 2, I guess, buy, which is Vandy and Arkansas under 5.5.
Buying the Crimson Tide. I got a lot of portfolio. Over win total, win the conference. Week 1, I still love them. I think that number is going to close 14 against Florida State. So I like Alabama. I just think people threw them in the trash a little too early. Let's give Kalen DeBoer 1 year adjusting. He gets his right-hand man back, who was supposed to be there to begin with, and Ryan Grubbs at OC. They'll figure out quarterback. So I'm buying Bama. Selling South Carolina. A lot of people love South Carolina, Lenore, Sellers, and all that. I'm selling because I thought that what made that team good last year was their defense, and lost 5 guys to the NFL, all in the top 4 rounds. This isn't Alabama or Georgia or Ohio State. A program like South Carolina is not used to losing 5 guys on one side of the football getting drafted highly. So I'm selling South Carolina. Also, look at that schedule. I mean, they're going to be an underdog in at minimum 5 games.
I was saying this is not Georgia. They lost too many guys to the NFL. Someone tried to make a case for their other guys, on Twitter. I can't remember, maybe it was 2 weeks ago, but I'm like, look, until I see them reload like a Bama, Georgia, Ohio State, I'm saying they lost too much too. And so I agree with you on the South Carolina thing. And the market just loves them too much and they're too trendy. But, as far as like the Ole Misses and the obviously Bama, Georgia, Texas, I feel like there's a lot of just teams that have a shot, man. And, who am I missing here? LSU, right? It's like there's it's just too top heavy right now for me to like look. Everyone's like, here's the thing. Maybe you bet under on every single one, right? Because they can't all win that many games. Choose to the over, man. I don't know. That's just an interesting thought. If you're just a numbers player, bet them all under and see what the hell happens. They beat up each other in the SEC. Yeah, and what do you think about Arkansas? Because that was my fade team. I'm worried about them, and I don't think.
Yeah, they're going to have some early success. That Memphis spot maybe is the worst spot in college football this year. I mean, what is it? Ole Miss, then Memphis, then Notre Dame type of thing early. I mean, if they lose 2-3 games early, I mean, he already was on the hot seat. I I don't see it moving forward. Lost a bunch of guys in the portal. I know Taylor Green's back, but he doesn't wow me throwing the football.
The Fun Belt, and I don't know. Is it JMU's year finally that they're eligible? I hear some whispers on Troy maybe being trendy. I don't have anything there myself.
Yeah, JMU's but I bet over the win total. I think they're the best team in the Sun Belt, not by a significant margin, but I think by a comfortable enough margin where I think there's still some value on betting them to win the conference. Troy was going to be that trending team for me, and then they lost 4 starters post spring, including their starting quarterback and running back. That was kind of a kink in their armor, so to speak. I'm selling Arkansas State. Don't have much other than the fact that they went 7-0 in one possession games last year. Not going to happen this year, and they still only went 6-6 in the regular season. Going earned 7-6 total for the season. All 7 wins were close wins. Not going to happen this year. Not a big fan of Mr. Butch Jones either.
No, Butch Jones. He's always been a fake guy. Yeah. But isn't James Madison got quarterback issues? Who's starting for them?
I mean, it could be Sluka, could be the guy from last year. I mean, I think they're going to get decent quarterback play no matter who's behind center.
Sluka, yeah, I'm just not. Yeah, you're right, because the guy from last year has been hurt.
So. Remember, he was the quarterback for multiple years at Holy Cross under the head coach at James Madison.
Well, there you go. That's good continuity then. Let's move to independents. But it looks like you're obviously there's not too many independents. You included the Pac-2. You had to include the Pac-2. So what do you got?
I did include I was hoping, you let me, because there's only 2 independents, Notre Dame and Connecticut, and I think the market's got them priced accordingly. I'm buying Oregon State second year. They'll be much improved. I mean, that was a year 0 type of situation last year. So, and I like their schedule. They face 5 first-year coaches, 5 games against first-year coaches. And speaking of first-year coaches, I'm selling Wazoo. I know they bring in a bunch of South Dakota State guys, but not enough in my opinion. And they got a tricky schedule where they're playing a bunch of teams that I'm high on. So I'm fading Wazoo and just gave out Wazoo. So I think that's still holding some value.
All right. Selling Wazoo, buying Oregon State. What's some of your favorite week 1 or games of the year bets?
Yeah, mention one. I still think Alabama against Florida State's holding value. I mean, Florida State's much improved, but I mean, I still think they're a mediocre team facing a legit national title contender, and I think that's cheap there. A sneaky one, Arizona, I like over Hawaii. I like the spot, sneaky spot. I think Hawaii's going all in to win week 0 against Stanford. Then after that, you got to travel to Arizona. And I have done the research on this. It is better to have film on your opponent than to actually play a game in today's day and age. You're 55% betting the team in game 1 against the team in game 2. So I like game 1. And that 55% is like 20 years and like 300 game sample size. So I like that one. And I like Arizona week 1 against Hawaii.
Ooh, that's a tough coach to bet on in Arizona, man, after last year.
You don't like him? No. I think he did a good job at San Jose State.
Kind of. Yeah, I know. I don't know. I'm gonna look at it because you're right. That's a proving trend right now, and thanks for mentioning that. It's so important to mention about that trend that it's better to have film on your opponent than to have the rest. It is,
especially when they're going to put everything on tape to beat Stanford. They're not going to hold anything back in that game.
They're not. And you see what you got going, so to have the reps is not as good as obviously having the films. So remember that. Long shots here. Let's talk about anything long shots. It looks like you mentioned a few.
Yeah, North Texas and the American. Louisiana Tech, mentioned a little bit of them. I think they're the second best team, and the trust factor isn't all there with Liberty after what I saw last year with them losing like Kennesaw State. So I did bet Utah in the Big 12, but that's kind of gotten priced out at this point. Heisman, I bet. Speaking of Utah, I bet Dampier, the quarterback. But again, that's gotten popular. I know you'll ask me about Heisman. I went to the 2 favorites, Arch and Cade. I'd be actually surprised if it's not that.
Arch is going to just get so much media, and Cade,
if they beat the Buckeyes, he's going to be like 2-1 after week 1.
I know. You can almost bet that and just hold on to it. Yeah, I know. It's they're favored though. No, wait, the Buckeyes are favored, aren't they?
Yeah, by 3.
Yeah, Buckeyes are favored.
I don't know. I'm not a big fan. I think both teams are kind of. I'm not a fan of any of those teams at the top in college football this year. I think it's wide open as it's been in 15 plus years.
Very true. And that's, I'm not, like I said, the Washington quarterback is kind of what I was on. when it comes to possible Heisman, just Desmond Williams, just for fun. Maybe he's going to be riding good for a while, and you can sell your ticket. I've learned that doing it, splitting your ticket in half and betting it twice, so you can sell it during the season. I did that with one of my Indiana 200-1 bets. Just got out right before the Ohio State game is when I got out of one of them. Dude, they were not big though, man. They were small bets, and I wish they're obviously, if I can go back in time, but it was still, still well in the thousands, so I was very happy about that. But it was a fun time to have last year, and that's what you're always looking for. But if you look at these numbers now, Brad, they're terrible to make the playoffs. I mean, they figured it out. They had no idea what they were doing when they were putting those numbers up last year. Now
they're
it's
not,
like,
and I would argue that I think you might be best served to look for buy low spots, possibly during the season. If they keep the market up during the season, let's bet on Alabama to make the playoff after they lose to Georgia in September on the road. So and that's when you jump in.
Absolutely, 100%. Look what the rest of their schedule has going, and look, maybe if, like, let's just say a team you weren't thinking about, like a Michigan or something, and Ohio State hurts their quarterback, but you're not thinking about Michigan so much, but the fact that their rest of their schedule might be good because they play them in a bad spot, that's another way to look at it too. So who wins the Natty before we go?
I don't know. I'm being honest. Again, there's as much parity. I mean, my top 4 teams are all within a point of one another. The top 4 being, big surprise: Texas, Ohio State, Penn State, and Georgia. So I'm going to go outside those top 4. If you're going to make a bet, I made this bet. I bet Notre Dame. I like the schedule. If they beat Miami, that's their toughest game. You don't like Miami, you just said. If they beat them in the opener, I mean, they're going to be more than a touchdown favorite in every one of their games. I think this year's team's better. I just got a question mark at quarterback, and I think he'll end up being CJ Carr. I'll be a better thrower than Riley Leonard. So bet Notre Dame. If you don't want to do that from the Notre Dame homer, which I'm not.
He's not a homer. He's not a homer.
I'm a hater, probably more than a homer. Alabama, I just think if we're doing a draft and drafting the top, okay, here's the top 100 players in college football. I think Alabama might have the most top 100 players, and they're not being priced like that.
Kalen DeBoer, I always liked him. I wonder if he was over his skis in the SEC, but I still believe in Kalen DeBoer too. So,
I'm willing to give him this year. Now, if they can't have Vanderbilt games.
Yeah, right.
That cannot. You get 1 year of that, and then after that, I don't want to ever see that again.
Brad, it's been awesome. Where can our listeners and viewers get your wonderful information for this college football season?
Follow me on Twitter and X, or whatever you kids are calling it these days, Brad Powers 7, or you can head over to the website, bradpowersports.com.
The one and only Brad Powers. Make sure you guys get on board because Brad is on top of things. Thanks again, Brad.
Thanks for having me.